What you are about to listen to is me, Pastor Michael Bowman, as I think out loud about and try to apply the scripture to anything and everything that comes to mind. This usually happens in my car, so jump in and let's talk. You live in a virtual reality. Virtual reality is an idea. Obviously, I didn't come up with it, but it's the phrase that I've been using over the last few years to think about any way that we have been disconnected from what is real. And so I wanted to talk about this a little bit and share a little bit. I've tried to do some writing in this area, and it pops up all the time. I'm sure that on this podcast I have mentioned this before. I've thought about it out loud. I've used this phrase even maybe just in an offhand way. I know that it comes up when I'm preaching sometimes, and it just shows up. And it's something that a few years ago I started to use as my catch-all term for any time I saw these different ways within kind of the modern world, the postmodern world, in our society where we are disconnected from the way things actually are. And it started for me in kind of agricultural issues or food issues when I started to, and my wife and I started to grow a lot of our own food, or we started to raise some animals that then we would butcher and we would preserve, that we would do all of the processing for in order to eat. One of the things that we found out very quickly is just the difference between what we had always known as, say, like chicken, and then what we would end up with when we raised it ourselves. And what I mean is that, everything from like the cost, for instance, the cost of chicken. If you raise your own chicken and then you see how much it costs to raise your own chicken versus how much, it costs to buy a chicken in the store, you would quickly realize that there's something very off, that there is something going on, right? When you can buy a whole chicken in the store for $5, there's something that is not right. There's something that's not real about what's going on. Or, this is something that there was a guy that we used to buy beef from at one point at a farmer's market who would wrap his meat up, in white butcher wrap paper. And somebody asked him once, I don't know if maybe we asked him, I don't know, but he was mentioning that some people wish that, he would package it like they do in the store with, kind of clear wrapping. And he said, well, he can't do that because when beef, as it is, has light on it, when it's seen in the light, it turns brown. And so when you find this, beef in the store, when hamburger is just sitting there and it's just in a clear wrapping, clear saran wrap of some kind on some styrofoam, and it's red, something has been done artificially to keep that meat red so that it still looks red even though it's exposed to light. There are many things like that. I mean, we could, just kind of elaborate on even just this front for a long time. The fact that I have a children's book that has colors in it, right? So it's different colors. It teaches kids different colors. So it'll be red, and it'll have a picture of a strawberry and a picture of an apple and anything else that you can think of that's red. And then it's blue, so there's water, and there's, I don't know, all kinds of other stuff. And then on the page for yellow, there was an egg yolk. It was an egg, and the yolk was supposedly yellow. Now, if you've ever had real eggs, that you have chickens and they produce eggs and you eat those eggs, the yolk is orange. When it's yellow, it means that they've gotten almost no nutrients, right? Where like the nutrient value is extremely low. But that's all that is something that you can get in the store, right? The only eggs typically, I mean, you can starting, over the last decade or so, it seems like there's a growth in people wanting something a little bit different. So maybe some places you can find something a little bit more nutritious, but for the most part, most eggs that you get in the store are just going to have a yellow yolk. And it's still probably better than no egg, is my guess, but it's not what it is supposed to be. Right? It's not quite where it is supposed to be. If you just had a chicken that's living a natural life, eating bugs outside, eating all kinds of vegetation, and getting a little bit of grain supplement from you. So we live in a virtual reality. We're disconnected from the way things actually are in the real world. Obviously, this is connected to social media and things like that. Think about how often it is that people go on social media and they're depressed because on Facebook or Instagram or wherever else they see all these people and they're always happy, but they don't feel happy. Well, those other people aren't happy either. They just don't put all of the worst possible things that happen in their life on Instagram. They don't take pictures when they're at their worst possible moment. And so it creates this false sense that everybody else is happy and you aren't. Everybody else has a great life and you don't. You're disconnected from what is real. There, again, we could multiply examples of how this works. I think it works in, money and the way that, fiat money is, we have a money system that is not backed by anything at this point, except for really the, force of law, maybe the fact that the U.S. has a large military, and so anyway, it impacts so many different things. And so this is a category that I've no doubt will come up a lot as I'm thinking through different ideas. It's just a tag that I wanted to make you aware of, kind of a thought tag that I use that deals with any area that I see a disconnect from how things actually are versus what they appear to be, or how we live versus how we're supposed to. I think of this in spiritual terms when Paul talks about suppressing the truth in unrighteousness. How much of postmodern living, how much of the postmodern world is simply a means to hide and cover the guilt that we feel because we know that we're under the wrath of God. Our conscience bears witness against us. And so we have to build up all kinds of counseling practices and psychotropic drugs, and we have to build up systems of constant support even for wicked things. And we need to claim everything is because the rest of society is not celebrating me the way that they're supposed to, and that's why I feel this emptiness inside. That's why I feel this existential angst. So much of the modern world is a virtual reality trying to make the world as if God is not a part of it, as if God did not make it, and as if he does not govern it. And yet he does. That the way the world actually is that God has created, he continues to govern, his wrath is against us in our sin, and yet he is at work building his kingdom through Christ, with Christ as the head, through the proclamation of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Here too, this is the creating of a virtual reality. And where there is virtual reality, I think one of the things that we should be doing is living in the real. We should be living in a way that is consistent with the world as it is, not pushing against the flow of reality, which can only work for so long. Rather, living with the flow of reality as God has created it. And I think that this shows up in so many places. So I've no doubt I'll deal with this more. I've done some writing on it. Like I said, I don't know if I'll ever publish that somewhere. I'll try to get it out at some point. But for now, let this be a little bit of an introduction to the idea that I've kind of got swirling around in my mind called virtual reality.
Hey guys, I hope this has been helpful for you. If it has been, go ahead and rate it, review it, or share it with a friend, especially if you're in La Crosse, Wisconsin, or the surrounding areas. That helps me expand the audience and hopefully increase the impact of these ideas. If you have any questions, thoughts, or concerns on anything that I just talked about, you can reach me at pastormichaeljbowman@gmail.com. You can find more content from me, as well as information about the church that I pastor at ccc-pca.org. With that, I hope you can enjoy the many blessings of God today. Until next time.